Hey everyone, it's Ray from the Teach Better team, and I have Tiffany Ott with me, also from the Teach Better team. How are you, Tiff?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. You know what I'm going to ask you,
I
but it
do.
is my favorite thing to ask you. How did the Twitter chat go?
It was awesome. I love superheroes. I love superhero movies. I love that she picked that as the theme tonight. That was so much fun. And the picture she posted of Thor, he's just so dreamy. So that was a really good time.
We were talking all about the Chris's in Marvel movies. So earlier when we did our preview. So all the cute superheroes out there, love them.
I'll take it. It's great. So how did you
Exactly.
feel? How did you feel about the chat?
Gosh, I really liked it. I loved the superhero theme. I thought that was so fun. But I
Mhm.
also felt like it was the perfect chat for the end of summer. It's not the end of summer. I don't want to
Yeah,
scare
don't
people.
say that.
I just mean that like people are starting to at least dip their toe into thinking about what next year is going to look like.
Yeah.
And this chat really allowed people to think about what they wanted to do this coming year, not only in their classroom, but with their staff and with, just like things like their teammates. I loved that focus. We talk
Yeah.
so much about students sometimes, talk so much about parents sometimes. We don't always talk about colleagues. It was just a fun little addition.
I really loved those last couple questions in the chat about like welcoming new teachers into the school and what are the big dreams, the big challenges that you have ahead of you this year? What are you taking on? Like that was a really nice way to kind of round it out because there's a lot of changes every new school year and we have these ideas and implementing them can be a little overwhelming and we want to figure out how do we best do it. So I thought that was really cool.
I think it was also good. I saw a lot of teachers that were talking about a change they made in their professional career
Mm-hmm,
or a
mm-hmm.
change that really affected their day to day. Maybe a teammate leaving or
Yeah.
losing administrators. I mean, those are really big stressors. There are too many unknowns, right? Teachers don't like unknowns. We can usually be flexible and really work on our feet, but unknowns are still not something we enjoy.
We're a really
So,
weird mix, aren't we? Like teachers, we really love planning and designing units and like getting down to the minutia, but we also, I mean, change throws us off, but at the same time, I don't think there's anybody who change doesn't throw off, at least in some way. So,
what I did like though is that I feel like when you hear about these changes
yeah.
and people that work with me, unfortunately, you know that I get antsy about this, but it comes around in March, April, and May, and everyone gets so nervous. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what do you mean something's changing? Wait, well, I have to know the details. What? Tell me everything. And more often than not, my administrator, I'm sorry to you, but they're often like, we don't know all the details, but we're going to get through it. And so it was kind of nice at the end of July having some people say, well, I'm going through that too. It was like, okay, it happens everywhere, like,
It's going to be all right. We
oh,
got this.
yeah, our host, Laura, who did outstanding,
Yeah.
amazing job.
Didn't she
She,
break Twitter? Like
oh
Twitter
God,
stopped letting her post.
she just was on overload. She loved it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
one of the big things that she said she was nervous about is the turnover in her school. And I was like,
Right.
oh, I'm so glad that somebody else is thinking about that. Because there's teachers out there that are worried about that. It's nice to have somebody to kind of like bond over with that and figure that
Absolutely.
out.
Well, and there were a lot of teachers too who are changing positions. There was one teacher who said they resigned last year and now they're going to be teaching part-time at a school or just changing and where you are. I have changed jobs more than a handful of times.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of different things in education and going into a new position is intimidating. It's a little overwhelming and you want to plan because we're teachers, we're planners. We want to plan as much as we can ahead of time, but
Right.
we don't necessarily have all that information and we have to kind of go with it.
Well, and on the flip side of that, so those are like two separate groups. We then had a third group of like this huge cluster of new teachers that were
Yeah.
starting their first jobs and
Yeah.
how scary those parts are, those
Right.
unknowns, and what they're looking to do versus what they're nervous about starting. I mean, it's a cool
Right.
mix.
You remember the first time you started teaching? The first year you were a teacher?
Yes.
A little bit overwhelming. A little bit overwhelming, right?
For sure. Oh my
Maybe
gosh.
a couple panic attacks leading up to it, but you're going to be okay. You're going to fail gloriously. And then we're all going to be right there to help you figure it out.
Yes. Take all that excitement, nervousness, and hone in on it and just make it awesome.
Absolutely.
So was there anything that like stuck out to you throughout this chat, Tiff? Something that you were surprised by maybe?
There was so much in there and my memory is so cruddy. I remember I didn't screenshot this time. Ooh. Silly Tiffany. I always screenshot. Oh, there's one that just popped up on my feed that I can talk about. Perfect. Somebody was saying this was like a total side conversation that didn't really have a lot to do with the chat, but I like those. Somebody was talking about how they have this 7 students same this coming year that they had last year, right? So they're talking about, I'm going to have to keep it fresh and keep it new. And so we had this little conversation about looping. I love looping. Looping is amazing. I actually, in my last position, I had the chance to work with students for 3 years in a row. And that was just really transformative in my career. So I love that. So that was a fun little side conversation that I really related to. Oh, and there were a lot of people who said that they're kicking off gamification next year. I'm so excited because for those of you watching that don't know, I'm a big fan of gamification. Really, I'm a big fan of a lot of things, right? I mean, gamification, mastery learning, tech tools. Like, what am I not a big fan of? Except lecture.
And textbooks, according to last chat.
Right. But, there are so many teachers who are like, I'm going to gamify next year and I'm going to do this. And it was really fun kind of seeing where people are at in this gamification journey. And I just love when people pushing themselves to try something, even though it's uncomfortable.
So, Tiff, we have some really cool comments I want to show up here.
Yeah.
Really, first of all, we have our host that
Laura.
said, love the chat. It was fast and furious. It absolutely is. And they never get easier. It's all like fun. And you just get used to the chaos, I feel like.
Around 8:45 tonight, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm tired. But then I got a fresh wind and I was like, oh no, there's more cool things to comment on. So I'm just going to keep going. Laura, really great job today. We loved the chat. I loved your thoughts and the conversations that they started. So thank you for being a part of it.
And if you're not following Laura, you have to follow her on Twitter. She's doing so many things and she's involved in so many other chats that there's like so much to learn out there in the Twitter world. So Yay. She's a great one to be a part of. We also have Jackie on here. Jackie is a new teacher that I was talking about. She's talking about how there's so many unknowns, but she's really excited. And I'm so excited for Jackie. She actually loves the grid method. She's working on coming to a workshop and she uses Teach Further. And talk about a stellar teacher who just wants to be her best. Like that is what I hope I have that and continue to have that. She's just such a rock star.
She's constantly pushing herself to be better. I love it.
Yeah. And she hasn't even started. And she's like still doing it. I don't know. She's a magician.
So come October and November, we're going to have to make sure to reach out to her and say, how's it going? Let's talk if you're struggling because you will. And that's okay because we got your back and it's going to be awesome. Like her enthusiasm for the grid method in that post she put just warmed my heart so much. And I see it all the time. People say, I tried this new thing and it was amazing. It was so hard and it was so challenging, but the effect it had on my students was mind-boggling. And I love that when we open ourselves up to look for this transformative change that we can bring into our students' lives. Like, dude, go for it. If it fails, it fails. But if it doesn't, you change the world. So
Tiffany, what you don't know is that Jackie's in Illinois, which is the coolest state ever.
I'm starting to get this impression.
Yeah, and she's going to be a middle school math teacher, so she speaks our language.
Love it.
And she just graduated from ISU, which is my alma mater. So, Jackie, you're going to be a rock star, and you better keep in touch with us. Otherwise, we're going to hunt you down because we know where you are.
So is she your twin, Ray?
Oh, gosh, I hope so. I feel like I have a lot of people that I like really want to be like. Jackie's on my list. She's a goodie.
I think next week our poll should be which state is better so we can definitively have an answer to this question.
But
is
then
it
you
Illinois
have to expand it.
Or is
Master
it
Chat has a lot of people in it. You're going to include Israel and India and England. And
it only gives me 4 options, Ray.
So So is it just like Illinois, Ohio, Texas, and...
No, Illinois and Ohio. Those are the only ones that matter. I'm kidding, guys. I love you all in all the states and countries you're from.
All right. We have another good comment. I'm sorry, Tiff.
Okay.
Usually we like have comments that are fun, but these are really great things that we could talk about.
Okay.
So I don't want to get too far off our Twitter chat, but Jacqueline's saying that she really wants to know more about the grid method. I just want to address this question. The grid method is an incredible mastery framework that I could talk for hours on, and I'm sure Tiffany can do the same. One of the best ways, short and sweet, that I can tell you that you need to learn about the grid method, and I just thought about like 15 more other ways besides what I was going to say, but come join our private Facebook group. You just search the grid method. You already like know how to spell it and everything on Facebook, and there's a page, which is where this video is posting from, but go to the private group. You have to request it. We'll make sure that we get you in there. There are so many teachers. This is a perfect time because there's so many teachers sharing out their ideas for it. So you can go take the free course and the full course and learn really all about it. But the private group has a lot of collaborative teachers. So that's my plug. What'd you think?
I thought that was good. Check out Teach Better Academy too, though. If you're not in there, you need to get into Teach Better Academy because there are so many courses that explain everything that we're talking about right now. Free courses, some paid courses. There's a Teach Better Academy membership. There's just tons of stuff on there. So check it out.
So much stuff. So much stuff. Oh my gosh. There's so much positivity here, but just to throw in.
Hold up. I got to pause you. Sarah West. Pop her comment up.
Oh my God, Sarah West. This is awesome. This one?
Yeah, I know her. I taught her kids. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
Tell the kids I say hello. All right, that's it. I just had to acknowledge that.
We're doing really poorly on this mastery chat. I feel like usually we're very structured, add a lot of value. I'm just like completely overloaded through all these awesome comments. Like I'm loving it.
Well, okay, how about this? Let's talk. Oh, look, Jacqueline. Did you see her comment? Thank you. I will join right now. You do that, Jacqueline. You go be awesome and then tell us all about it.
Stop being distracted by the comments, Tiffany.
I'm sorry. Yes. Okay. So I did a poll again this week.
Yes,
right?
Let's talk about that.
And is Jeff on? Is Jeff in watching the chat? Because he always does, and he's the one who really wanted it.
Yes, Jeff Kaplan required us, challenged Tiffany to do a poll every week. Last week was super, super cool. This week we had to remind her, which was funny because Tiffany very rarely ever makes a mistake ever in life. And so it was really cool to be like, hey, Tiff, remember that thing you're supposed to be doing? So if he's not here right now, I bet he'll watch this later.
He will. He'll watch it. He'll probably talk about donuts too. Isn't he the one who says they're going to bring Emma? Hi, Emma. I'm sorry. Sarah just said her daughter Emma is waving at me. Hello, Emma. I miss you dearly. Okay. So the poll that I put up, here's the question. Because question 4 from the chat was all about like, read it to me, right?
Oh,
it was about challenges 4, or
yep. During a challenging day this year, scheduling, full moon, whatever, tell us about a last second strategy you came up with, but you changed it a bit for your poll.
I did. Well, I don't like to do the exact same question because I like to kind of branch off a little bit. So the poll question was, speaking of the challenging days from question 4, which of the following would throw you off your game the most? And here are the 4 options. A negative email from a parent, the full moon, conflict between colleagues, and then drama between students. So here are the results. The top 2 were really close to each other, and an overwhelming majority, negative emails from parents and conflict between colleagues. Those 2 are the ones that derailed our mastery chat people the most for their challenging days. And I can totally relate to that. I mean, when you have an interaction with a parent that is stressful or challenging, maybe you messed up and you should have done something you didn't do. Maybe it's just an incredibly difficult situation that there's really no winning, right? That makes you feel so, for me, when it happens, I'm like, oh my gosh, I failed. I am not in the good fail forward way, right? Like, man, I really let that person down. So that will eat away at my brain until 2:00 in the morning, like seriously. And then conflict between colleagues, that's really tough, right? Because your colleagues are your support network at school. And when it goes into that school culture and positive school culture and how big of an effect that can have on every functioning within the school. Yes, Laura, yeah, absolutely. But when that's off, the feeling percolates through the whole building. And so that's, hi, Rochelle. She was awesome at Summer Spark. I want to hang out with you more, dear.
I know. Right?
But so, yeah, drama between students was actually pretty low. And I think that is probably because as teachers, we're pretty trained to handle that, right? Like there's no college class resolving conflict between colleagues. But the topic of how you help, especially as middle school educators, Ray, you know, the topic of how you help that age group, I'm sorry, I'm babbling on and on and on, but that comes up frequently, but not helping your colleagues when they're struggling.
Well, and I think you brought up an interesting perspective, right? When it's student conflict, we have been trained, right? Teachers act as counselors more often than not. We're constantly teaching the whole student. We're not just teaching content. We're teaching them how to deal with emotions and how to problem solve and how to get along with others. And so that's something that we can empathize with, but that we also have strategies to use. And when it comes to colleagues, for me personally, it just feels very personal. And when it gets personal, that's where you lose me, right? That's where Ray becomes sad Ray, where I, really just struggle because I hate that mentality of not supporting each other. So when you're in a colleague, disagreement and there's some sort of conflict, it just, it kind of like drains all the energy out of you.
Right.
For me, when I did the poll though, I picked the parent piece, getting a mean email from a parent. I still struggle with that. I feel like I continue to build up my repertoire of teacher tools, right? Things to really be successful in the classroom. And I just cannot master a parent being upset because it just hurts you so much. Teachers care about their kids. They want to do what's best for them. And while the parents come from that same perspective, sometimes you don't always consider that when you're emailing back and forth. And a parent emails you and maybe words things in a way that makes you feel like they didn't think that you were fighting as hard as you needed to for their student. Like, kills me,
Or there's a sentence that you interpret in a certain way and you know what I mean? Or you're not super careful in the way you're phrasing an email that goes out to families and it blows up in your face. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think so much of that is because we are reflective and we're like, what did I do wrong? What could I have done better? So
one thing that I always feel like needs to be brought up here is that email is a huge, easy way to communicate with parents. Definitely something that everybody uses, should use, all that great stuff. If you ever get in a situation where you're with a parent and you think that you're not seeing eye to eye, my rule is if you exchange 2 emails back and forth that have any sort of negativity, you need to stop emailing and make a phone call. And maybe that phone call is with a colleague, so you have somebody listening in, or an administrator is a fantastic tool. But the tone of an email is so hard to interpret that once you get on the phone with a parent and show your compassion through whatever words you're saying, and staying professional, of course, there's just so much value there. It seems to make things easier. So, have you found the same, Tiffany?
I have, but I have completely. I am terrible at picking up a phone and making a phone call. Me. It makes me it takes everything I have to force myself to sit down and pick up the phone and make a phone call. But it's funny. It's not just about school. It's about everything. I don't even pick up the phone to call my sister or the bank. I just don't like talking on the phone.
You answer my phone calls just fine.
I know, but I'm working on it. So I'm working on it. This past year, I made it a goal to call have a phone conversation with the parents of my students before the school year even started. And I was really, really proud of myself because that was making me nauseous. Literally, I spent a week and a half sick to my stomach because I had to pick up the phone and talk to people. But you're right, 100%, especially if there's tension, pick up the phone, make a phone call. And I'm going to add, Ray, I just wrote a blog about communicating. Oh, Amber, yes, I do answer your phone calls too. About communicating with, administrators communicating with staff and how you can make that communication really positive. I have a whole team of people with me. We're so good at talking to kids. We can talk to kids about anything, but teachers are not always that great at talking to other adults. But anyway, so one of the big rules I have for communicating with staff members is that you have to listen. And the same rule applies for us as teachers calling a parent about a difficult situation.
Tiffany froze. Are you still there, Tiff?
I'm here.
Okay, good. Maybe I froze. Sorry.
No, you didn't freeze. It's probably just me. My internet's been a little wonky today. Sorry, guys. But if you pick up the phone and say, hi, Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so, this is Mrs. Ott from blah, 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 blah. I'd like to take a few minutes to talk with you, and then stop. Like, shut up, right? Give that, like, you know, the wait time we use for students all the time? Count to 10 in your head and then start talking, because chances are within those 10 seconds, the parent is going to say something.
Yeah.
And then still be quiet. Just let them get it all out, because people, when they feel heard, when they feel listened to, it breaks down those barriers and can make such a huge difference. And it's something I am continuously working on. My 2 goals every single school year are to get more organized. I'm better than I used to be, but I'm not there yet. And to increase my communication with home, because those are just 2 things I struggle with.
So I think a big piece of that also, and they say it's like the most cliche thing ever, but always start with a positive, right?
Mm-hmm.
You need to make a phone call that has a positive in it, so that if ever, heaven forbid, you have to make a negative phone call, then at least you started there. But even if it's a negative phone call, start with a positive. There's always a positive you can find about a student to share with a parent. It's okay to share that positive, even though you're probably burning inside to talk about whatever else you're calling about. That's important.
Well, or even like if you're in the midst of a conversation about how, like, maybe it was a verbal conflict with a student or something that wasn't going well, take the moment to stop and say, you know, I do want to acknowledge that in the course of this conversation, Bob didn't, you know, scream at me. Bob angrily spoke to me. So that's good. There's no, you know what I mean? Like, that was a really silly example, and I could come up with 1,000 better ones. But recognize the student for some progress before you launch into the whole, here's everything that your kid did wrong, because that's not going to work.
So it's funny, Tiff, I had a goal 2 years ago that I would call 15 parents a week. And it was really good, but then this year I knocked it down to 5.
Okay.
And next year with my student teacher, Delaney, if you're listening, get ready for this, we are doing 10 a week. So I'm going to encourage you, Tiff. I'm going to call 10 parents a week. I'm going to push you to do like 5 a month.
Okay.
Just to call and say hi. Like, most of my phone calls were like, hey, it's Miss Hewert. They're like, oh my gosh, is something wrong? And I'm like, no, just like wanted to check in. Hope your week's going well. Any questions about the class?
Super awkward and weird.
No, it's like totally nice. They love it. Most parents are like, oh, nothing's going on. Thanks for checking in. And then they hang up. Or others are like, oh my gosh, that's so funny. I actually had a question I was going to call the office about. And I'm like, oh, just ask me. You know, it makes it easier, so much easier.
All right, Ray, I will pull inspiration from you this year.
All right.
You need to pop up Laura's comment, because she's got an idea that she wants to share.
Love this.
Heard another idea on Better Leaders, Better Schools podcast this week. Love podcasts. The episode about negotiations. Lean into the emotion of the parent or upset person, like with a 2-year-old. You miss mommy, don't you? Acknowledging the emotion. Loved that advice. Yeah, absolutely. Like, taking the time to say, and even parroting back what they said. Like, I'm hearing you say that you're upset because blah, 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 blah. Like, that's really important and really valuable.
It's so funny, Tiff. I've seen you do exactly what we've been talking about so many times in conversation. So I know that you can do it.
I totally can. And like I said, I forced myself to more often this past year, but that's an area that I see for continuous improvement for me. Like, get me in person and I got you. Like, we will talk and problem solve, and it's great. But for some reason, that silly telephone just drives me nuts. But it's okay. I'll get there.
So I'm sorry, my background, I feel like I'm sitting in the dark. I swear I have lights on in my house. Like, we look like the evil and good side. If you're listening,
I like that.
Like the angel and the not angel. Anyway,
Very nice, Ray.
just distracting.
We're yin and yang.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a much more like meditative, fabulous fit.
That is.
Although I think we're more similar than opposites. So whatever. Anyway, we are getting so off track. Let's take a minute. Oh no, do you have something to say?
No, go ahead.
Okay. I just want to tell everybody who's hosting next week and why you definitely need to be there, because the person that's hosting next week, I simply adore. He is a mover and a changer and is doing some amazing things, especially when it comes to teaching kids to love reading and to be really embracing themselves as authors and readers. And it's Cameron Carter, who is just amazing. And what about that topic? Creativity does not equal art skill. Yes.
That's a great title. I'm excited for that one.
I know. It's not about making a poster pretty or about something, but like creativity goes so much further than that. I cannot wait to hear those conversations. It's going to be really good.
So, Tiff, do you have a poll going for that Twitter chat too? Can Jeff expect a poll?
You know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to, right after I get off right now, I'm going to go give myself a task in our like work management thing, Basecamp, and it's going to say to do that. So come on.
There you go.
Prepare one. It's going to be really good. But you know, speaking on creativity, just real quick, one of my previous jobs, I worked with gifted students, and creativity is something that is frequently a big focus in gifted education, especially in the primary grades. And there are so many resources out there for creative thinking that have nothing to do with markers, crayons, and colored pencils.
Right.
All about ideas for how you can take something and repurpose it and reinvent it and make it better. And that is so much a skill our students need as they move forward into their lives. In fact, for me, probably the skills, like the two skills I use more than anything else in my life are collaboration and creativity. Because I take ideas, whether it's gamification or the grid method or whatever, and I take it and I tweak it and I fit it into what I do. And so I'm really excited for that chat next week.
I love this. Sarah says, even if you can think of one way in which a student has shown growth. Awesome. So she's talking all about that phone call idea. I love it.
Yeah, stopping the "you just hate my kid" narrative. Absolutely. Thanks, Sarah.
Well, I have to say, Tiff, I always like going live with you after a chat. We always have great discussion. And I won't lie, this one was a little out there. We kind of talked about everything. But I loved, we had over 40 comments from people that were interacting with us on live. And while it did distract us, I loved it. Like, we really love interacting with all of you. Being able to talk about a topic with you is so much more fun because you guys are fabulous. So as we continue to do lives, we do a pre-chat and then a recap afterwards every single week on Thursday. So thank you for being such an active part of this one, because I know that we're going to get better at the comment thing, but also you added so much value to this. It doesn't need to be ever the Ray and Tiffany show. This is really something we're just trying to spread the love, spread the knowledge, help everyone. And you are a huge part of that equation. So love the comments today.
It's my favorite part of any kind of, really anything we do, is hearing people's ideas, building off of them, and taking them and squishing them together into awesomeness. So these comments are gold to me. Tell us what you think. Even please challenge us. If you disagree, challenge us. We love it. We live off of it because we want to have open discussion and debate about these issues. And we want to hear your ideas. There were some ideas that were popped up in those comments today that I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go do that. So keep it up. We love all of you guys. We love that you're in our Mastery Chat family. We love being a part of this with you. And this is an amazing journey that we are all going on together. So love all of you.
Love it. So much. If you missed our Twitter chat at all and this recap inspired you, please go on Twitter and follow #MasteryChat. There's a ton of good information on there. Laura did fantastic. We practically broke Twitter while doing it. And so feel free to go through, retweet, and respond, because everyone does that for the next 48 hours. We're all secretly in Mastery Chat still in the chat. So feel free to pop in there. And gosh, we will see you guys soon. Thank you so much.
See you next week, guys.
See ya.
Bye.